What happens when two of WWE's most brutal rivals put their differences aside to unleash absolute chaos? Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, two men who've torn each other apart for years, just joined forces in the most shocking alliance of the decade. And their first victims. Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker got demolished in a backstage brawl that's already being called one of the most insane moments in WWE history. Buckle up because this story is wild. Welcome back to Wrestling vs. CC, your home for the most explosive moments, incredible storylines, and jaw-dropping action from the world of professional wrestling. If you're new to the family, smash that subscribe button and ring that notification bell because you do not want to miss what we've got coming. Let's dive into this absolute madness. Now, to understand just how massive this alliance is, we need to talk about the history between Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. These two have been at each other's throats for what feels like forever. We're talking about a rivalry that's spanned years, multiple championships, and some of the most brutal matches in WWE history. Seth Rollins, the visionary, the revolutionary, the architect of his own destiny. This man has proven time and time again that he's willing to sacrifice everything to be at the top of WWE. His work ethic is legendary, his in-ring ability is off the charts, and his resilience absolutely unmatched. Then you've got Brock Lesnar, the beast incarnate. A legitimate fighting machine who's dominated everyone and everything put in front of him. Former UFC heavyweight champion, NCAA wrestling champion, and one of the most dangerous competitors to ever step foot in a WWE ring. When Brock Lesnar shows up, people get hurt. These two have battled for championships, they've battled for pride, they've battled for supremacy. Rollins has always been the scrappy fighter who refuses to stay down, while Lesnar is the unstoppable force of nature. Their matches have been absolute wars that left both men battered and bruised. So when I tell you that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw this alliance coming, I'm not exaggerating. The WWE universe was completely blindsided. But here's the thing about professional wrestling. Sometimes the most bitter enemies realize they have a common threat that's even more dangerous than their hatred for each other. And that threat? Two absolute monsters in Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker. Let's talk about why these two young powerhouses had both Rollins and Lesnar looking over their shoulders. Bronson Reed is a beast. We're talking about a man who weighs over 300 pounds but moves like someone half his size. His agility is insane for someone his size. Reed has been on an absolute tear through WWE, destroying everyone in his path with a combination of power, athleticism, and a mean streak a mile wide. The tsunami splash from the top rope. That move has ended careers and broken bodies. Reed doesn't just beat his opponents, he breaks them. And he's been making it very clear that he's coming for the top guys in WWE, and that includes both Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. Then you've got Bron Breakker, second-generation superstar and an absolute freak of nature. This man has the pedigree, the look, the intensity, and the raw power that reminds people of WWE legends from decades past. Breakker isn't just strong, he's explosive. His strength is matched only by his incredible speed and his killer instinct. Breakker has been steamrolling through opponents like they're nothing. His gorilla press powerslam has left a trail of broken bodies in his wake. And the scary part, he's still getting better. This young lion is hungry, and he's been targeting the established main eventers to prove he belongs at the absolute top. Reed and Breakker formed an unholy alliance themselves, realizing that together they could take out anyone standing in their way. They've been attacking top stars after matches, during interviews, in the parking lot. These guys don't care about rules or respect. They're about making a statement. Both Rollins and Lesnar found themselves on the receiving end of brutal attacks from Reed and Breakker on separate occasions. Rollins got ambushed after a grueling championship defense, left lying in the middle of the ring while Reed and Breakker stood over him laughing. Lesnar got jumped in the parking lot, and even the Beast struggled against the two-on-one assault. And that's when everything changed. That's when the impossible became reality. Backstage at a major WWE event, tensions were at an all-time high. Reed and Breakker were cutting a promo in the interview area, talking trash about how they run WWE now, how the old guard needs to step aside, and how nobody can stop them. The camera crew was there, officials were nearby, and then we heard it, footsteps. Heavy footsteps echoing through the corridor. The camera panned, and there he was, Brock Lesnar, marching toward Reed and Breaker with that look in his eyes. You know the look. The one that says somebody's about to get destroyed. Reed and Breaker smiled, cracking their knuckles, ready for a fight. They figured even if it's Brock Lesnar, it's still 2-on-1, and they like those odds. The Beast was walking straight into their trap. But then, from the other direction, another set of footsteps. The camera swung around and oh my god, Seth Rollins. The Visionary appeared from the opposite corridor, and he was laser focused on Reed and Breaker. Now here's where it gets insane. Reed and Breaker were looking back and forth, realizing they were surrounded. But they still looked confident because hey, Rollins and Lesnar hate each other, right? Maybe they'd start fighting each other first. Wrong. Rollins and Lesnar locked eyes for just a split second. No words were spoken. No handshake. No elaborate agreement. Just a simple nod. An understanding passed between two warriors who realized that sometimes you need to put your differences aside to handle a bigger problem. And then all hell broke loose. Lesnar charged at Bronson Reed like a freight train. We're talking about a collision that shook the entire backstage area. These two behemoths started throwing bombs. Reed tried to use his size advantage, but Lesnar is Brock freaking Lesnar. He lifted Reed up and launched him into a equipment crate. The sound of that impact echoed through the hallways. Meanwhile, Rollins went straight for Bron Breaker. The Visionary was moving at light speed, throwing strikes, kicks, forearms. Breaker tried to power out, tried to use his strength, but Rollins was like a man possessed. He drove Breaker backward, smashing him into walls, into doors, into anything that wasn't moving. The backstage area turned into an absolute war zone. Equipment was flying, people were scattering, and security didn't know what to do. How do you break up a fight between four of the most dangerous men in WWE? Lesnar grabbed Reed and delivered a devastating belly-to-belly suplex right on the concrete floor. The thud was sickening. Reed rolled in agony, but the Beast wasn't done. He was in full destroyer mode, years of pent-up aggression being unleashed. Rollins hit Breaker with a superkick that echoed like a gunshot. Breaker stumbled backward, and Rollins followed up with a curb stomp right on a production box. The box shattered under the impact. But here's where it gets even crazier. Reed tried to recover and go after Rollins from behind, but Lesnar intercepted him. The Beast grabbed Reed and threw him into a wall so hard that it actually left a dent. And then, in a moment that will be replayed for years, Rollins and Lesnar made eye contact again. And they smiled. These two rivals, these two warriors who've beaten each other senseless, actually acknowledged each other with respect. It was like watching two apex predators recognize each other's strength. Breaker tried to mount a comeback, charging at both men, but Rollins and Lesnar moved in perfect synchronization. Rollins went low with a chop block while Lesnar went high with a thunderous clothesline. Breaker went down hard. The double team assault continued. We're talking about poetry in motion from two men who've never teamed before. Lesnar would hold someone in place, and Rollins would deliver a devastating strike. Rollins would weaken an opponent, and Lesnar would finish them with a crushing blow. Security and officials finally managed to flood the area, separating everyone. But the damage was done. Bronson Reed was lying in a heap, barely moving. Bron Breaker was clutching his ribs, gasping for air. Both of these young destroyers had just been taught a harsh lesson by two of the very best to ever do it. Rollins and Lesnar stood there, breathing heavily, adrenaline pumping, and they looked at each other one more time. No words were needed. They'd just sent a message to the entire WWE locker room: mess with either of them, and you'll have both of them to deal with. Now, let's talk about what this means for WWE going forward. This isn't just about one backstage brawl, this is about the entire landscape of the company being turned upside down. First, you've got this new alliance between Rollins and Lesnar. Is this temporary? Is this permanent? Are we going to see them actually team up in matches? The possibilities are endless. Imagine these two entering a tag team tournament. Imagine them holding tag team gold. The thought alone is mind-blowing. Second, Bronson Reed and Bron Breaker just got a reality check. These young lions thought they could bully their way to the top, but they just learned that the established stars didn't get where they are by accident. Reed and Breaker are going to be even more dangerous now because you know they're going to want revenge. Third, Every other superstar in WWE is looking at this situation and thinking, if Rollins and Lesnar can put aside their differences, what other alliances might form? What other enemies might become allies? The backstage politics just got very interesting. The psychology of this whole situation is fascinating. Think about what had to happen for Rollins and Lesnar to work together. Both men had to swallow their pride, put aside years of animosity, and recognize that sometimes survival means adaptation. That's storytelling at its finest. For Rollins, this shows his intelligence and strategic thinking. He's always been called the architect for a reason. He recognized that fighting Lesnar and dealing with Reed and Breakker separately was a losing battle. By aligning with his enemy, he's created a force that nobody can stand against. For Lesnar, this shows that even the beast incarnate can evolve. Brock has always been a lone wolf, a mercenary who fights for himself. But even he recognized that Reed and Breakker together posed a unique threat. And Lesnar respects strength. He knows Rollins is tough as nails, and that's worth something. The WWE universe is losing their minds over this development. Social media has been on fire with reactions, theories, and speculation. Everyone wants to know, what happens next? Will Reed and Breakker seek revenge? Will Rollins and Lesnar continue their alliance? Will this lead to an epic tag team match? This is why we love professional wrestling, people. This is why we tune in every single week. These are the moments that create legends. These are the stories that we'll be talking about for decades. When wrestling hits this perfect sweet spot of surprise, action, and storytelling, there's nothing else like it in entertainment. The destruction that these four men caused backstage is going to have repercussions for months. You don't just walk away from something like this. Careers can be defined by moments like these. Legacies are built on nights like this. And let's give credit where it's due. Bronson, Reed and Bron Breakker might have gotten destroyed, but they took their beating like warriors. These guys didn't run. They didn't beg off. They stood their ground against two of the most dangerous men in WWE history. That takes guts. That takes heart. And you know they're going to come back stronger and hungrier than ever. The message has been sent, but the story is far from over. In fact, it feels like this is just the beginning. We're potentially looking at one of the hottest storylines in WWE right now. The unpredictability, the star power, the violence, it's got everything. What did you think of this absolute chaos? Are you Team Rollins and Lesnar, or are you backing Reed and Breakker to get their revenge? Do you think this alliance will last, or will Rollins and Lesnar eventually turn on each other? Drop your predictions in the comments below because I want to hear from every single one of you. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the craziest moments in recent WWE history, show some love by smashing that like button. Your support means the world to us here at Wrestling vs. CC. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We bring you the best wrestling content, analysis, news, and breakdowns every single week. Hit that notification bell so you're always first to know when we drop new videos. I've been your host, and remember, in WWE, expect the unexpected. Enemies can become allies, and allies can become enemies. That's the beauty of this business. I'll catch you in the next video. Until then, keep watching, keep supporting, and keep celebrating the absolute madness that is professional wrestling.